and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in our annual holiday charity for funsies duel, we are pitting Detective Chimp versus Howard the Duck. And this is off the back of other Christmas fights that we've done, such as Crypto the Superdog versus Throg.
Right, that was last year.
And Chip the Squirrel versus Rocket Raccoon.
The Green Lantern Squirrel.
Right, exactly. So yeah, we're just keeping in the tradition with a good old, animal fight.
Jeez. So, yeah, I can't think of a better way to get into the spirit of the holidays.
Right, than to put a duck versus a chimp. Can't wait to see how that turns out. This is a timely episode, in fact, because I want to give a quick shout out to the Blast from Our Past podcast. In the episode that they just released a few days ago, I was a guest on that show and we reviewed the Howard the Duck movie, as well as the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, and we did a fan casting of the Sinister Six. So definitely check that out after you listen to this episode. Search for the Blast from Our Past podcast and go enjoy that one as well.
Yeah, it's a fun podcast. We know the showrunners personally. They're good guys. Really funny, really nostalgic. Definitely check it out.
Yeah. Before we get into the Detective Chimp versus Howard the Duck duel, we'll be going over the comic book movie news from the past week, of which there was the Captain Marvel trailer, which we didn't get to talk about last episode.
Right. It came online right when we ended our episode, and we were just like, fuck it, just save it for the next one.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that, as well as the Avengers 4 teaser trailer.
Right. Before we get into the news, we just want to give a big, huge thank you and a big, huge shout out to John ShDEsI for winning our third annual art auction for charity. He got the Detective Chimp and Howard the Duck original signed artwork done by Shannon V. Sapenter,
who's an amazing artist that we commissioned those pieces from. He did an amazing job on them, and we're very grateful.
Yeah, and all the proceeds from this auction went to Women Helping Women, which is a charity that focuses on crisis intervention and advocates prevention of gender-based violence.
Yeah, it's a great cause, and we were definitely happy to donate the money towards it.
Yeah, so thank you once again to the auction winner, John ShDEsI. Look forward to getting those soon, because we'll be sending them soon in the mail.
Right. And also, real quick, we want to say thank you to Poppy Bina and Greg5 Texas for leaving us reviews on iTunes. Super appreciative that you guys did that for us. As you guys may be aware, we've been asking for iTunes ratings for the past couple of months because we're trying to get to 200 ratings so that we meet all the criteria set by Rotten Tomatoes to become official critics on that site. So we would love to have our Marvel and DC movie reviews counted toward the official tomato meter, and you guys can help us reach that by rating us on the iTunes and Apple Podcasts platforms.
Yeah, and thanks to Poppy Bina and Greg5 Texas, we are now at 50 ratings. So we are exactly 1/4 of the way to 200.
Awesome. So close.
So close. It wasn't long ago. We were only at 34?
Yeah, something like that.
Now we're at 50. So it's so awesome. You guys are really pulling through. Thank you so much.
Yep.
But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize.
So a No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that I personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week.
Last week's question, which was given during our big 100th episode,
right,
was what has been your favorite Dynamic Duel episode and why? It was a self-serving question, really.
Absolutely.
But it was really interesting to see the answers. So we want to give honorable mention to no one, because everyone that answered is the winner. There was no way we were going to be able to choose between all of these answers that you guys gave.
No, yeah, they were all just too sweet and just too kind-hearted, and you guys are just too awesome.
If you're not careful, our next question of the week is going to be, what's your second favorite episode?
And our third question will be tell me I'm pretty.
So the winners of this week's No Prize are Aaron Alexander Jones for giving the answer Nightwing versus Daredevil and Adam versus Ant-Man. Those were his favorite episodes.
Yeah, those were a lot of fun.
Yeah, and also congratulations to Jace Crump, who gave the answer Wonder Woman versus Thor. I thought that was a great episode.
Yeah.
That was an earlier one.
Yeah, it was right before the Wonder Woman film.
Right, yeah. Congrats also to Josh Padgett, who gave the answer Batgirl versus X-23.
Also from last year, early from last year. But I loved that one too.
Also congrats to Adam ShDEsI, who won for stating that his favorite episode was our Watchmen review.
And honestly, that's my favorite episode.
Really?
As well, yeah. I just love the Watchmen movie. The guest was our friend Arcus, who came on, and it just got so philosophical and just so deep It was just a great episode. That's the one I probably listened to more repeatedly since we've done this podcast than any other episode.
What about the Dark Knight review?
That's also my favorite episode, probably. I can't choose between my children. Gosh. No, yeah, the review we did of The Dark Knight with Craig also got really, really deep.
And the last winner of our No Prize this week is CJ Kraft, who gave the answer, all of them, which was an awesome answer. I really like that one. I think, personally, my favorite episodes are the ones that we've done with the guests, including, The Dark Knight, including Watchmen, Ant-Man, the Spider-Man movies we did with Maggie, Man of Steel, and especially the X-Men Origins Wolverine episode we did with John and Adam from the Blast from Our Past podcast. That was great.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out if you guys have not listened to that yet, because we totally just dog on that movie and it was a blast. But yeah, congrats again to all of you guys who gave answers and won this week's No Prize. If you want to win a No Prize, go ahead and listen to later on this episode when we will be asking another question of the week. So with that out of the way,
on to the news.
Okay, so as we mentioned earlier before, we got the Captain Marvel trailer during last week's Monday Night Football game, and it came out just a little bit too late for us to actually review it, so let's go ahead and get into that now. This is the second trailer that we've gotten for this movie, and it kind of expanded upon a lot of the things that we've already seen from the previous trailer. Yeah. It starts off with her on this train or subway. It looks like a light rail above ground kind of thing, and she goes up and she just smacks this old woman.
And that was in the first trailer. I don't think we talked about that in our first trailer review, but that was definitely like a what the F moment. Yeah. And so I'm kind of glad that they started right on that. Because I was like, good, explain this.
Yes. Well, because I think a lot of the general public will be wondering like exactly why this superhero just went up and sucked this old lady who just offered her a Werther's original and was just, sitting quietly on the train. Like, what happened? Did she go crazy? Is the old woman evil? What's going on here?
I mean, we figure it's a Skrull because that's who she's going up against in this film.
Yeah, comic book fans kind of got the idea that this was a shape-shifting alien disguised as an old woman. My concern at the time, though, was that nobody else would understand that.
They would think that she was just a real mean superhero, right?
But now I think a lot of people understand now that this is no ordinary old woman because she's doing flying kicks and doing backflips and stuff like that. And we didn't get to see any granny panties, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
What? But she gets her head smashed into this bar, and we see that Carol Danvers ain't taking no guff from anybody. No. And she's kind of like, when she's talking to Fury later, he's like, so you're a Kree warrior. And she's like, warrior hero, actually.
I get the feeling from this trailer that she's definitely been like brainwashed.
Yeah, indoctrinated into, the Kree Star Force, basically. Right. Kind of manipulated to think that they're the best and greatest in the whole galaxy.
Exactly. Do you like her line delivery throughout this trailer?
I think I have the same criticism in this trailer as I did in the last one, where her line delivery is a little bit bland. There's not a whole lot of personality behind it other than just slightly cocky.
Yeah.
But in these two trailers, we have yet to see her give a lot of line delivery that we could use to kind of judge her entire performance on, I think.
Sure.
So I'm sure the film is in good hands because you have, great producers and a great actress in Brie Larson. She's an Oscar winner.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of feel like if anyone could pull this off, it's Marvel, just because of what they've done with characters like Steve Rogers.
Right.
I mean, a lot of Marvel characters have a lot of personality, like Star-Lord, like Iron Man, like Spider-Man.
Right, but then you have characters like Captain America and Black Panther who could be more adequately described as not having a huge unique personality, And I think Brie Larson is going to fall into that latter camp where
it seems that way.
Yeah, she's not like bubbly or gruff and mean or things like
that,
snarky
or anything like that.
Yeah, she's like kind of falling in the middle, but they still put her in unique enough situations where the character still works. Mm-hmm. The trailer picks up after the Marvel logo with Carol Danvers lying on the ground and she's bleeding, and the blood coming out of her nose is like this like bluish green kind of color. So it appears that she has already been mutated somewhat by the Kree DNA, so it's kind of hard to understand exactly where this scene takes place continuity-wise, because during this scene, she's still wearing her fighter pilot garb, and yet she has the Kree blood coming out of her.
Well, I remember being kind of confused by the whole continuity of this film by the first trailer, and this really didn't help, because, later on we see her getting a blood transfusion, which is, I imagine, when she's on Hala, and yet, she's bleeding blue-green now.
Right, while she's still dressed in her military uniform.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a little strange. I'm almost wondering if they are adapting some part of the new origin that they've introduced for her in the comics, where if you listen to our Supergirl versus Captain Marvel Duel episode, you'll learn that Captain Marvel was a security officer for NASA, where she met Mar-Vell, who was a Kree officer, and then, she traveled up into space with him and was captured by his villain, who was named Yon-Rogg. He was a Kree superior officer to Mar-Vell, and he ended up capturing Carol and putting her in a machine called a psych magnetron, which fused Kree DNA into her and gave her superpowers. That's how she got her powers.
Yeah.
But in the Marvel Comics, they revealed that Carol's mom was actually secretly a member of the Kree race. So she was already half Kree, and the psych magnetron just actually awakened her abilities as opposed to giving them to her.
Interesting.
So I'm wondering if she actually is already half Kree at the very start of this movie when she's living on Earth, and that's why she's bleeding green right there or something.
This is not the first time she's bled.
Oh, that's a good point, though.
You'd wonder, shouldn't she be concerned? I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We get this voiceover by Annette Bening, who I completely forgot was in this movie. And it's hard to tell who she's playing. She looks like some kind of Kree leader, but she's speaking with such authority. It makes you wonder if she is the Supreme Intelligence or some kind of manifestation of the Supreme Intelligence, kind of like Supremor. It's hard to tell. She's definitely not green and gross looking, so but she does have greenish eyes, so one never knows. They might be just doing a completely different artistic take on that character of Supremor.
I think it's all part of the, brainwashing of Carol. If it was like a green monster, she probably wouldn't be as keen to listening to what she's saying.
Oh, so you think Annette Bening is some kind of maybe mental projection of Supremor into Carol's head?
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
It's a valid theory. We get a shot of Carol actually being brainwashed. She's being held upside down and being zapped in the head. And I'm almost wondering if this is the psych magnetron, this machine that's brainwashing her, if that's what they're going to call it in the film. I think I've heard a few people reference it as that in the trailer. We get a cool shot a few seconds later of Carol and Maria Rambeau getting into their fighter jets. It's very Top Gun. They're giving each other the hang loose sign. And again, we see that Maria's call sign is Photon, which of course is going to go to her daughter later on in the future when Monica grows up and becomes Photon, the superhero. Sam Jackson looks cool in these trailers as always. It is virtually impossible for me to notice the special effect that's being applied to him that's making him look younger.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's pretty damn near flawless.
And he seems like he's going to be a huge part of this film.
Yeah, he's showing up in a lot of different set pieces throughout this trailer.
Yeah.
I really like the effect where Carol puts on her battle helmet and it puts her hair up in a mohawk.
Yeah.
So we get that kind of new badass look from the comics, but then, she can make the helmet go away, so we get the more traditional look as well.
Right. Is that how it works in the comics as well?
Kind of. I mean, there was a period of time in the comics where she kind of had the sides of her head buzzed. So yes and no.
Okay.
To answer your question.
Okay.
We only see minimal use of the Skrulls within this trailer, which makes me think that they're not going to be the big bads of this movie. I'm really thinking that it's going to be Jude Law's character, Yon-Rogg.
And I got the same feeling, and I almost feel like that's a spoiler, because I thought he was going to be the romantic interest. I thought he was going to be...
I thought he was going to be Mar-Vell,
Yeah.
And now he's acting real sinister in his voiceover, where he's like, you're not as strong as you think you are, and you want to know who you really are, and things like that.
Yeah, he's either the bad guy or he's just an asshole.
Yeah, I think he's the main bad guy. And I don't know how I feel about that. If he is playing Yon-Rogg, then they are most likely not going to be including Mar-Vell in this movie, unless he's maybe dead right away and she takes over his spot on the Star Force team or something like that. But he's not going to have a substantial role. And I guess that's the best way to tackle this from the standpoint that this is her movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's not a legacy character. She is her own hero.
Right, exactly. So maybe that's for the best. I'm not entirely convinced that you actually need Mar-Vell to have Carol Danvers Captain Marvel. So we'll see how it plays out. It is interesting.
I'm still really interested to learn how she gets the name Captain Marvel, and if they're going to call her that in the film.
Maybe Captain Marvel is just the title that they appoint the head of the Star Force.
Maybe.
Toward the end of this trailer, I think we get a pretty damn cool exhibition of her powers in action.
Yeah, she looks insanely powerful.
She's like a starship on her own, the way she's taking out all these ships.
Right.
And everything like that. It looks like she's fighting Ronan's ships. Because you see Ronan observing her from a Kree starship window.
Okay, so that was Ronan. I thought it was him because I kind of recognized the headpiece.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool shot. I just love the kind of special effect that they applied to her, where she kind of glows with this bright energy that flows around her, kind of. She looks super powerful, and I like the way she kind of spins through the air and everything like that. She looks very acrobatic through the air.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not finalized special effects, but it's just cool that we're going to be able to see that on the screen, once it is finalized.
Right. So after the title card, we get a weird moment with Captain Marvel and her cat, and Nick Fury's petting her, and they're spending just a little bit too much time on there, and it's not funny.
No, it wasn't.
I don't know if it was meant to be funny or if it's meant to be a clue to the plot later on, because it's definitely not an ordinary cat. Not only do we see this cat on the first poster, like hiding in the shadows for this movie, but in the comics, Captain Marvel has a cat named Chewie, who is actually not a cat, but a member of an alien race called the Flurkin. And like then they open their mouths and they have like all these like tentacles and like there's a pocket dimension living inside each one and everything. It's super crazy and hilarious. And I'm wondering if they're going to do that with this cat, given the fact that they're spending so much time setting this cat named Goose up. I do like the name Goose more than Chewie, just because it's more of a Top Gun reference as opposed to a Star Wars reference.
So you think Goose is Chewie?
Yeah, I think Goose is Chewie. I think Goose is an alien with huge-ass tentacles that'll shoot out of its mouth.
What a ripoff of Supergirl.
Really? Why?
Because Supergirl had a cat named Streaky.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we've already established in our Supergirl versus Captain Marvel episode that Captain Marvel is a huge ripoff of Supergirl because, you know, her name is Carol Danvers and Supergirl's real name is
Kara Danvers.
Kara Danvers.
Right.
But guess who's getting the movie first?
Supergirl.
Oh, fuck. That's right. But who's getting the better movie? Almost definitely. Yeah, I am looking forward to this Captain Marvel movie, and they'll probably only release like maybe one other trailer.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, so like overall, I think that this trailer was actually not quite as good as the first trailer that we got for Captain Marvel. And
I agree.
Even though we got that really cool moment at the end, I'm still kind of waiting for them to stop being quite so cryptic with their trailers. I'm looking for something a little bit more substantial and something that makes sense. And even with the cat moment at the end, it was so cryptic.
To me, I think that's what really made it fall flat for me. You had this really big moment, and then they just kind of ruined it with a joke that didn't work.
Right, exactly. And I'm sure that whole moment right there will make more sense in hindsight after we've seen the film and we realize that, you know, this is like a dangerous cat or something like that. But we don't know that yet. Yeah, we don't know that yet, so it's not worth it at this point. So, I don't know.
I think we may have to do like a Chewie versus Streaky match next year for our holiday episode.
Maybe.
Just to keep the animal theme running.
Yeah, because we're almost running out of animals now, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that does it for the Captain Marvel trailer. Let's go ahead and jump into the Avengers 4 first trailer that came out this past week.
Yeah,
it is
trailer.
Officially titled Avengers Endgame. And I have to give a huge shout out to Sean Gorley and Joel Seagrave, who way back in May correctly predicted this title.
Yeah, we had given a question of the week of what do you think the title would be. I think we chose like Avengers World or Avengers Forever or something like that.
Avengers and the Infinite Sadness.
No, yeah, some people did say Avengers Endgame, like Sean Gorley, like Joel Seagrave.
Yeah, my initial reaction to the name was that I was just really glad that it wasn't Annihilation, because I had heard those rumors going on for a long time. Like, according to the news reports, it was practically confirmed that the title was going to be Annihilation. So I was actually surprised to see that it wasn't. And super overjoyed because I really want them to save Annihilation, you know, for Annihilus. And
right. And the Fantastic Four.
Well, not necessarily the Fantastic Four, but basically Cosmic Marvel.
Okay.
Although, you know, Annihilus is a Fantastic Four film, so if they ever wanted to tell the Annihilation story in a Fantastic Four movie, that could work too, I guess. Yeah, Endgame is good. You know, it's been referenced several times throughout the movies when Doctor Strange said we're in the Endgame now. And I think back in Avengers Age of Ultron when Tony Stark said that's the end game.
Yeah.
When he was referencing the portal in space and everything.
Right.
So this trailer opens up with Tony Stark and he is adrift in space flying in, I can't remember if it's the Milano or if it has a new name now because I think the Milano got destroyed in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, yeah.
So I forgot what the name of this ship is, but it looks like Tony Stark was able to kind of repurpose it to escape the planet of Titan along with Nebula. And he, you know, he's dying. They have no chance for survival, apparently. Although I think that he will be getting rescued, obviously, and I think it's going to be by Pepper Potts.
Is he with Nebula? That's right. She was with him at the end.
Yeah, you see later on in this trailer, Nebula's on the same ship as he is. So yeah, they're together, and they were both on Titan at the end of the last movie. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you think she would be more resourceful?
I don't know if she needs to eat or drink. Well, she did say that she was hungry in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, so she definitely needs to eat. I wonder if she needs to breathe oxygen, though. Who knows?
But you think Pepper Potts is going to rescue them?
Yeah, well, because in the comics, Pepper eventually becomes the superhero rescue, and she has her own suit of armor. I think it would be a great arc for the character of Pepper Potts to kind of grow into this savior character who loves Tony so much that she's willing to construct her own suit of armor, fly out into space, and rescue the man she loves.
But fly out like halfway to Saturn?
Well, we don't know if this planet Titan that's in these Marvel movies
Yeah.
is the same Titan that is the moon of Saturn in real life. Because don't you think that Earth scientists would have been able to detect that there was a civilization on the planet of Titan?
Not Marvel scientists. They're dumb.
Also, the shot where he's floating in space on the Guardian's ship, I think you see the Milky Way galaxy in the background. So I think it's a completely separate planet.
Oh, interesting.
And it's not Saturn's moon. Even though it is in the comics, it is Saturn's moon. But who knows? Maybe Pepper will be making a quick trip to Saturn, or I don't know, finds a way to like reach hyperspeed or something like that.
This opening shot was pretty sad. It definitely tugged on the heartstrings. When he's like, when I'm fading away, I'm going to be thinking of you. He's just resigned to the fact that he's about to die. You see him like having trouble breathing even. It's just really sad.
Yeah. I do enjoy this a lot, actually. It's a quiet moment to include in a trailer, you know? And I thought it was just kind of like the calm before the storm that we were going to get in the second half of this trailer, which actually ended up not happening, you know?
Right.
Because I would say that the second half of this trailer is almost as somber as the first half.
It's definitely not like a man facing his own death, but it's definitely like people who almost have survivor's guilt.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they're kind of sitting around just talking about what Thanos did and feeling bad about it. There's not a whole lot of shock and awe within this trailer, which is what I was kind of hoping to get. Honestly, I don't think that this trailer compares to like the first Avengers Infinity War trailer that we got, where we got to see cool things like, you know, the Hulkbuster and Vision getting attacked, and Captain America stepping out of the shadows with a beard.
Yeah.
And the Hulk crashing through the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Black Panther saying, "Get this man a motherfucking shield."
Right, exactly. There were a lot of great moments in the Infinity War trailer, and I feel like this is so low-key, mainly to carry on the feelings that you had at the end of the first movie. But I think that was the wrong way to go with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think people want to be excited about this.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they are regardless. I might just be nitpicking here because...
Well, they absolutely are, because this broke the 24-hour record,
right,
like, hands down.
Exactly, and who isn't going to see the movie even based off of a subdued trailer like this?
Yeah.
We're all still going to go see it. One moment that I did particularly like, though, was the scarecrow that Thanos had made out of his old suit of armor.
Oh.
That was a great homage to the comics, you know, the very last shot of the Infinity Gauntlet story where he did make a scarecrow and became a farmer living off the land and everything like that when Adam Warlock went to visit him at the end of that story.
I think my favorite part of the trailer was seeing Jeremy Renner as Ronin, I guess, just with like that blade. That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
And he's like in Japan, I
think that was probably the most cool, revealing thing about this trailer was seeing Ronin.
Yeah.
Just to see him take off his mask and, you know, clean his samurai sword on his sleeve.
Yeah.
That was pretty sweet. And it was pretty cool when Hawkeye became Ronin in the comics, too, because he was just such a badass. He was just a much darker character. And you look at Jeremy Renner's face in this, and he just looks like a man who has lost everything and is just in a really dark space.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
This reveal, and probably the reveal that Scott Lang is outside the quantum realm, are the two big reveals.
I didn't want them to reveal that, though, honestly.
I was kind of disappointed by that, too. Like, I kind of feel like they try to end this the same way that they did the Captain Marvel trailer, with, like, a joke at the very end.
Yeah, a funny beat.
Yeah. And to me, this wasn't funny at all.
Neither of them were funny.
It was probably more surprising than anything.
Yeah.
But... yeah, I don't know.
Well, it was great for all the people who like went crazy at the after credit scene for Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I still remember that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Fuck Marvel.
But it was something that I didn't want to see in the first trailer. I think they could have kept that a surprise a little bit longer, honestly.
Probably.
But yeah, speaking of Ant-Man, that brings us to our question of the week. What's your theory on how Ant-Man got out of the quantum zone?
I don't have one, so definitely I want to hear yours.
Right, exactly. Post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No prize that we'll post to social media. You know, overall, if they were trying their hardest to get you the least amount excited for the upcoming movie, I think they succeeded. Basically, you see Tony Stark being sad, and then Black Widow and Captain America being sad, and Thor being sad, and Bruce Banner being sad. And yeah, I think I definitely wanted more. But yeah, again, we'll see what happens in the next one. I really want to be like shocked and amazed and wowed at the next trailer that they put out, which won't be for another few months, probably around the same time that Captain Marvel hits theaters.
So you can't be too angry. You can't be too upset.
Right, exactly. I'm really glad that they revealed the title, finally.
Oh, I know.
I was half expecting him not to reveal the title of the movie until, the end title card after the movie ends.
That would have been something.
One ticket for Avengers Untitled, please. But with all the news out of the way, let's go ahead and get into our duel portion where we find out who would win in a fight between Detective Chimp and Howard the Duck.
Cool, let's do it.
All right, Detective Chimp versus Howard the Duck. I'm pretty excited for this one, mainly because these two characters basically have like no superpowers.
Right.
They're really short. They're both, anthropomorphic animals.
They're both detectives.
They're both detectives, right, exactly. So they have a lot in common, but they're not especially powerful characters. So stats-wise, they're just going to be pathetic. But one of them has to come out on top.
I think they're mostly played up for their kind of like humor factor.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Especially Howard the Duck. He's always been a parody character, and the adventures that he goes on are just wild. And Detective Chimp, his name is, Bobo?
Bobo, yeah.
Right. He's pretty hilarious, too. I've seen him in a cartoon once.
Yeah, he's had a few cartoon spots.
Yeah, and just the concept of a talking monkey is just innately funny to me.
It is.
I love it. I love both of this. I think it's going to be a blast to not only learn about these characters, but to figure out exactly how they would attack each other.
Right.
So the way that we do this, if you haven't listened to one of our Duel episodes before, is we take the stats from each of these characters and we compare them against each other 1,000 times in a Monte Carlo simulation. And what the Monte Carlo method does is it randomizes their stats along a normal distribution, which accounts for all the variables that one would face in battle.
Right, so it's the most objective and scientific method to use to find who would win between, two characters if they fought.
Yeah, there's a lot of practical applications for the Monte Carlo simulation, which is, anything from risk assessment to just prediction maps in general.
Exactly. There's no bias here. There's, no fan votes, no uncharacteristic feats of strength, just base stats.
Yeah, and those stats are based on the official Marvel power rankings from which we extrapolate the DC stats. And we also include some other stats in there as well that we think would be important to the particular battle.
And once we get the results, we get a percentage of wins. And no character ever wins 100% of the time. There's always a way for one character to defeat another. And that's sort of what the simulation model brings up.
Right, exactly. The character that gets the highest percentage of wins is the one that we declare the winner. So before we plug in the stats and run the simulations, what we like to do is we like to give a breakdown of each character's history and abilities, and then go into a sort of speculative scenario where we discuss how we think the fight would go.
Right, that speculation has no bearing on the actual results. It's just something fun we like to do.
We'll go ahead and get into the histories now, and I'll go ahead and start first with Howard the Duck. The appeal of Howard the Duck is his zaniness. I think he provides like a different sort of tone and type of adventure for Marvel than you're going to get with any of the other heroes.
Maybe Deadpool.
Maybe Deadpool, but that's still very much in the superhero vein. As I go through Howard the Duck's history, a lot of it is going to make you go like, what the fuck is happening? Because it's just so crazy. But yeah, again, that's the appeal if you're looking for something different. So in a reality much like Marvel's, Howard T. Duck was hatched to Ronald and Henrietta, a working-class couple in New Stork City on Duck World, a planet where the dominant species descended from ducks as opposed to apes. Howard was a gifted student who squandered his intellect to avoid getting bullied by the bigger ducklings in school. Wasting his potential through the years, he dropped out of medical school and got a menial day job as an advertising copywriter. Around that time in Marvel's dimension, a Hell Lord named Thog the Overmaster used his sorcery in an attempt to merge all realities together into one that he would rule over. Though Thog was unsuccessful, his spell did transport a random assortment of beings from other realms to the Florida Everglades. There resided a portal that connected to the rest of the multiverse, called the Nexus of All Realities.
Oh, isn't that what Man-Thing protects?
Yeah, exactly. Man-Thing is the swamp creature that protects the Nexus. So Howard teamed up with Man-Thing, as well as Korik the Barbarian, Dakim the Enchanter, and the cousin of Johnny Blaze, Ghost Rider, a sorceress named Jennifer Kale. Together, they defeated Thog the Overmaster and used the Nexus to return to their respective realities. However, on the journey home, Howard fell off one of the other dimensional stepping stones of Oblivion, and he fell back into Marvel's reality in the city of Cleveland, Ohio. Feeling trapped in a world he never made, Howard decided to start his life over and work as an investigator, hoping to eventually join the Cleveland Police Department. He looked into a string of grisly farmer deaths, discovering that the cause was a vampiric cow named Bessie, who was bit by a starving Dracula centuries ago and was now thirsty for human blood. Howard staked the hell cow and solved the case, but despite his heroic act, he was denied a position in the police department. Shortly after, he tried to save a model named Beverly Switzler, who was held captive by a criminal accountant called Pro Rata. Howard was captured himself, and the villain sent the two prisoners to a barbaric dimension to retrieve a key for his cosmic calculator. Howard managed to outwit two stone giants that were guarding the key, and returned with it and Beverly, though he refused to hand the key over to Pro Rata. Eventually, Spider-Man saved Howard and Beverly, and the two began living together in a shared apartment. Though Howard tried to live a normal life working as a taxi cab driver, he often ran afoul of various strange happenings and was forced to confront villains such as Turnip Man, Count Macho, the Gingerbread Man, Bellhop Man, Kidney Lady, and so on, often teaming up with Man-Thing to fight bad guys like the Cult of Entropy. At one point, he ran for president of the United States and was nearly assassinated, but no one took his candidacy seriously and he lost the race. Howard's greatest nemesis, perhaps, was Beverly's ex-boyfriend, Dr. Bong, who threatened to kill Howard if Beverly didn't move into his castle and marry him. Wearing a suit of armor, Howard attacked Dr. Bong, though it was Beverly who ended up saving the day by using Bong's lab to clone a set of quintuplets and threatening to publicly accuse him of being a negligent father if he didn't let her and Howard go. Howard and Beverly returned home, and her marriage to Bong was annulled due to the fact that it was never consummated. Howard was at one point bitten by Dracula and stalked the night as a vampire, though he was largely unsuccessful given that he didn't have teeth. It later turned out his vampiric affliction was merely a delusion because as a duck he couldn't be turned. Through mysterious circumstances, Howard and Beverly were transported to Duckworld, where Howard was regarded as a hero and Beverly was regarded as a freak. While on the Johnny Quackson late night talk show, the Duck residents tried to prove Beverly was a robot by using a vacuum to remove her skin, but ended up just removing her clothes on national television. Howard and Beverly were run out of town, but were able to get back to the Marvel Universe with the help of Doctor Strange. After a few adventures alongside Spider...
I'm sorry, did you say Doctor Strange?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You heard that right. After a few adventures alongside Spider-Ham and She-Hulk, Howard traveled through the multiverse with a group called the Daydreamers, including Artie and Leech from Generation X, Man-Thing, an alien named Tana, and Franklin Richards, who is the son of Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman. Together, they visited various universes that resembled Marvel's, such as Never Never Narnasbia, which is like a Marvel mashup of Neverland, Oz, and Narnia.
Oh gosh.
And they also visited a Dr. Seussian universe. After returning from those adventures, Howard got a job as a department store Santa, during which time he met the real Santa, who turned out to be a member of Hydra. During the Superhero Civil War event, Howard tried to register as a crime fighter, but the bureaucratic red tape involved in getting him signed up was so complicated for S.H.I.E.L.D. that they just decided to write him off as legally non-existent.
What?
He became an agent for the organization called ARMOR, which stands for Alternate Reality Monitoring and Operational Response Agency, during which time he prevented a zombie outbreak on Earth. This experience led to his recruitment to lead a 12-member zombie fighting team he called the Ducky Dozen. He later went back to working as a private eye again, and while on a case searching for a mysterious gem, he found himself kidnapped by the Collector and transported to a space collection. While there, he met Rocket Raccoon, who was also trapped, and the two were able to escape with the help of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Recently, Howard was merged with the Nexus of All Realities and was able to use the power to transport himself and others into any dimension he wanted. He used the power to return to the Collector's collection and free the rest of the prisoners inside, though he since lost the ability to transport that way. As far as powers go, Howard has the strength and speed of a 2'7" humanoid duck who engages in exercise only when he feels like it and smokes a lot of cigars. Though he lacks in physical attributes, he is an adept hand-to-hand combatant and a master of quack fu. He has also had a substantial amount of training in the mystic arts by Doctor Strange and Jennifer Kale. His intellect is vast, learning after the death of the Watcher that he could have potentially been the smartest duck on Duckworld had he not been taken.
Oh, no.
And that's not to besmirch the citizens of Duckworld, but to highlight just how smart Howard is.
So he knows about magic, but would you consider him a sorcerer?
He is, I would describe him as an unrefined sorcerer.
Okay. Because Detective Chimp, he's, a member of Justice League Dark, and he deals with wizards and magicians and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say he's like a practicing occultist.
Okay. So basically you're admitting that Detective Chimp is going down.
What? No. I mean, he could deal with magic if he has to.
Okay.
He could totally do that.
Okay. All right.
Let me get into more of his backstory. So, Bobo the Detective Chimp was the stage name of a chimpanzee who had been captured in equatorial Africa and trained by a carnival worker named Fred Thorpe. Bobo's real name was an unpronounceable screech followed by 3 grunts, which roughly translates to the magnificent finder of tasty grubs. But Fred was good to Bobo and took good care of him, and Bobo was grateful for the simpler life the carnival offered. Fred taught Bobo how to respond to hand signals and visual cues in order to trick crowds into thinking the chimp could deduce secrets from audience targets. During a carnival stop in Oskaloosa County, Florida, Bobo met Rex the Wonder Dog, who starred in his own comic series in the latter years of the comic's golden age. Rex led Bobo to the Fountain of Youth in the middle of the Florida swamp, which Bobo drank from.
What is it with the Florida swamps? The nexus of all realities,
exactly.
The Fountain of Youth? Strange.
The Fountain of Youth granted Bobo eternal youth, increased intelligence, and the ability to communicate with all creatures in their own language, including humans. Bobo returned to his carnival act, at which point he was able to deduce that a woman in the audience had recently murdered her sister, and he told the police.
Oh, jeez.
Not too long after, Bobo's trainer Fred was murdered, and Bobo helped the county sheriff bring the killers to justice, after which Bobo became the mascot for the sheriff's department, helping them solve cases.
Oh, what the hell? So Howard solves cases and he doesn't get to join the Cleveland Police Department, but those guys make Bobo their mascot?
It's animal prejudice. Humans like chimpanzees more than ducks, I guess.
Yeah, that's messed up.
At some point, Bobo struck out on his own and opened his own private detective agency, doing quite well for himself as the public saw him as a novelty. He and Batman would even help each other out on numerous occasions while the two swapped theories in a secure internet chat. Unfortunately, he eventually had to shut down his agency due to his inability to take legal action on unpaid bills, since he was an animal without civil or legal rights. He became an alcoholic as he faded into obscurity, spending most of his time in the interdimensional bar named Oblivion, frequented by many of DC's magicians and occultists, including the Enchantress, Blue Devil, and Nightmaster, who owned the bar. When the Spectre, the spirit of vengeance, was corrupted by the villain Eclipso and compelled to destroy all magic on the planet, Detective Chimp drunkenly gathered a group of magic users, including Enchantress and Blue Devil, and even the all-powerful Phantom Stranger, whom the Spectre had turned into a mouse. This team, named Shadow Pact, failed to defeat the Spectre and prevent him from destroying both the wizard Shazam and the mystical nexus of reality, the Rock of Eternity. You can learn more about the wizard and the Rock in our Shazam vs. Black Bolt episode. During the Rock of Eternity's destruction, it lost its tether outside of space and time and exploded over Gotham City, unleashing powerful magic and the formerly trapped 7 deadly sins. While Shadow Pact helped reform the Rock of Eternity, the sin of sloth possessed Bobo's old friend, Rex the Wonder Dog. Bobo helped capture the entity and imprisoned it within the reformed Rock of Eternity. With Gotham cleansed of magical influence, the dying Naboo gave Bobo the Helm of Fate, which you can learn more about in our Dr. Fate vs. Dr. Strange episode. The helm didn't fit Bobo, so he gave it to the hero Shazam to throw into outer space and let fate decide who the next Dr. Fate would be. Bobo remained on the Shadow Pact team, who, together, saved the town of River Rock, Wyoming, from a supervillain team of mystics known as Pentacle. After being captured and tortured by their team's resident detective, Kid Carnival, Bobo and the rest of his team sacrificed 1 year of their lives in an instant to bring the team down, after which they discovered statues of themselves erected in Metropolis to honor the seemingly dead team. The team found themselves in a strong position within the magical order after gaining the Helm Ramsgate Cauldron, which could give them information on any magic user in the universe. Bobo tried to strengthen the team's heroic image by writing the 3 universal laws of superheroics. Number 1, the lives and safety of innocent bystanders will always be protected. Number 2, the lives and safety of you, the superhero, and members of your team will be protected to the extent that it does not conflict with the first law.
Oh, that sounds like Asimov's laws in iRobot.
Right. And 3, the lives and safety of all opponents will be protected to the extent that it does not conflict with the first two laws. Eventually, the Helm of Fate returned to Earth, landing in Bobo's lap. It fit him this time, but he grew overwhelmed by the immense power and gave the helmet up. In the New 52, his Shadow Pact teammate Nightmaster was killed in the Dark Knight's Medal event, and the Oblivion Bar was given to Bobo, along with Nightmaster's mystical blade, the Sword of Night, which allows Bobo to sense danger and compel the truth in others. Of course, Bobo won't have the Sword of Night or the Helm of Fate in this battle. His strongest weapon will be his analytical mind, though his muscles are pretty strong as well, being of chimpanzee strength, which is about 4 times that of humans. He's also faster and more agile than a normal human, let alone a duck.
That's been debunked, by the way. Chimps aren't actually 4 times stronger than humans. Pound for pound, they're only about 2 times stronger in their arms.
I did research. I said 4 times.
I did scientific research as well.
Okay. Interesting. We'll say it 3 times then. I guess he will have one gadget on him, and that'll be his trusty magnifying glass. So come at me, bro.
All right. Okay. Yeah, these 2 characters are, I guess, pretty similar, although Bobo doesn't have nearly as crazy adventures as Howard does.
No.
Like, Howard's just, like, off the wall. Like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, no.
But yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about how the fight would go. The only rules that we set up for these speculative matches are that the heroes don't know anything about each other, but they do know that each other are threats.
Right.
They start out about 50 meters apart on the battlefield.
Which plays no bearing on the match.
Right, because we don't take stats for the environment. The environment is like no environment, basically.
Right, it's too big of a variable that can serve as too much of an advantage for one character over the other. For example, if this took place at a pond, like chimpanzees can't swim. So
Well, neither can Howard, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he can't fly either. So,
Oh, nice. Good.
all right, so let's go ahead and get into it. 50 meters apart, who goes first?
I don't think it's going to be Detective Chimp. I think he's going to be too busy sort of like analyzing Howard the Duck, although there's not much to analyze since he's just a giant duck.
Well, he's not a giant duck. He's 2 foot 7 inches. So he's just a humanoid duck, basically. I'll say that Howard is pretty analytical as well, but I think I would more likely see him making the first move just because of his kind of unpredictability.
Right.
So he's gonna look at Bobo and analyze him for the amount of time that it takes to light up a cigar, and then he's gonna roll up his cuffs on his sleeves and be like, all right, let's do this. And he just starts, walking over to Bobo to lay a smackdown on him.
Okay, I didn't mention this, but Detective Chimp is also like a big, like, chain smoker. He uses a pipe. So
Okay.
Detective Chimp will pull out his pipe as he's watching Howard the Duck like walk up to him and just lights that up. He's like,
Okay.
peculiar.
All right, so Howard walks right up to Bobo and just slaps the pipe right out of his hand.
Dang!
And it was like, take this! And he uppercuts Bobo right in the face.
Which doesn't really hurt Bobo.
What do you mean it doesn't hurt Bobo?
I mean, it's a feathered fist against like.
It's not like
a
Downy
chimpanzee.
Soft.
Are you sure?
He's a master of quack fu. He can throw a punch. He takes out dudes all the time. He hits hard enough.
Okay. All right, but right when Bobo gets uppercutted, that's when he like drops back like onto his like long arms, and then like lifts his legs and does like a spring forward kick right into Howard the Duck.
Oh, man.
And from this point, Bobo is like a ping pong ball. He's just like rolling and tumbling and like punching and like grabbing feathers.
Oh, jeez. All right, so Howard's pissed off. He's like, what the heck's going on? So he grabs his cigar that probably got knocked out of his mouth, and as Bobo comes at him, he shoves the cigar like right into Bobo's mouth and like holds Bobo's mouth shut.
Then Bobo smokes the cigar.
No, but he puts it like the fire side forward, so like Bobo's mouth is burning.
What? Okay, so Bobo just grabs like Howard by the arms and just pulls them off his face and is like, ah! And it like falls out of his mouth. And then he headbutts Howard right in the face.
Oh, jeez. Except I think it would hurt to headbutt a duck because they have that bill, right?
All right.
So it would probably hurt Bobo just as much to headbutt Howard as it did Howard. So Howard takes this opportunity and he raises his big duck foot and he just stomps right on Bobo's foot.
A flipper?
Yeah, but it's a big foot. It would hurt Bobo.
I don't think
you
it
keep
would.
thinking that none of these attacks would hurt Bobo.
It's
but
like a duck
like I
versus
said,
a chimpanzee, literally.
It doesn't matter. Like Howard's strikes do have heft to them because again, he does punch and kick human beings on the regular.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you step on a chimpanzee's foot, he has like 3 other feet to work with. Like 3 other hands. So, he just tucks in that foot and then just does like a side hook straight to Howard the Duck's head.
Except Howard blocks it using his quack fu, and he grabs Detective Chimp's arm and he flips him over onto his stomach, onto the ground, and he bends his arm behind his back and threatens to break it.
Okay, but Detective Chimp is not like a humanoid. He takes one of his legs and he just uses that to grab Howard's ankle, and then he just pulls Howard to the ground. And then jumps on top of him and starts like jumping on him like he's a mattress and just screaming like a maniac.
Okay, so Howard's getting hurt. He probably has like 2 black eyes at this point. So to prevent Bobo from hurting him further, he starts tapping into his magical abilities, and he summons a seraphim shield. And he's like, you didn't know you were messing with a mallard of the mystic arts. And he launches the shield like a springboard, just sending Bobo flying away from him.
Okay. So Bobo's like, okay, I'm dealing with a magic user. All right.
And then Howard, he summons the vapors of El Tor to kind of like fog up the battlefield so they can't really see each other.
Okay, but Howard can't see either then.
That's true.
So they're basically going to be stumbling around until they find each other.
Right. Yeah, pretty much, exactly.
At which point, like, Detective Chimp, like, spots Howard the Duck, and he, like, creeps up slowly behind him, like, grabs him, and then he just, like, starts rolling out of the fog.
Yeah, but I kind of, like, imagine while they're in the fog, it kind of looks like one of those cartoon battles where it's just, like, this cloud that's surrounding the bunch of, like, flailing arms and fists and stuff like that, and, like, stars and stuff.
Exactly that. Exactly that. But eventually, Bobo gets Howard in a headlock, and he pulls out his magnifying glass, and then he just, like, starts burning a hole into Howard's forehead.
Oh, gee. From what light source?
I don't know, the sun.
How do you know the sun's out? You don't know that. That's environmental.
Okay, then he just starts hitting him in the head with his magnifying glass.
Okay, but at one point, Howard catches the magnifying glass in his beak and kind of, like, yanks his head and sends the magnifying glass flying, disarming Bobo of that weapon.
Not really a weapon, but okay.
And then he reaches up and grabs Bobo's deerstalker hat and like yanks it down to cover his face. And then he gets out of the headlock and starts just punching Bobo right in the face while it's underneath his hat.
Okay, so Bobo's trying to get his hat off. Bobo's gonna have a hard time like pulling this off as he's like trying to defend himself too.
Right.
But as he's like pulling off his hat with one arm and like trying to hit back with his other, he finds Howard the Duck's necktie. And then he just grabs it and like yanks it. Oh shit. Now he's like choking Howard the Duck with one arm and trying to get the hat off with the other.
Okay, so Howard's being choked to death by his tie, and there's not really much he could do because Bobo is stronger, but he starts like summoning this portal beneath Bobo's feet so that like he'll fall into, I don't know, freaking hell or something like that.
Jeez.
Okay. So, but again, Bobo might be able to take him down with him. So we'll go ahead and leave the fight there because I think that's kind of a good place to leave them off, and we'll find out exactly who won between the characters after we run these 1,000 simulations. So let's go to the stats and come back with a winner. Cool. All right, we're back. Howard the Duck is on the verge of being choked out, and Detective Chimp is on the verge of being damned to hell. We went ahead and ran the simulations using the Monte Carlo method, and we have a winner. Now, I was actually pleasantly surprised how even these guys seem to be. At first, I was a little bit nervous because I know monkeys have way better physical attributes than ducks.
Way better.
But Howard, he had great range, he had great damage potential because of his use of magic, and also he is a better martial artist. He has greater fighting skill. So going down, the column of stats, they both had pretty fair representation in each one.
Yeah, they were both really intelligent. I think that was their biggest thing going for both of them.
Yeah, yes, definitely. So that being said, I'll go ahead and announce the winner. The winner between Howard the Duck and Detective Chimp is Detective Chimp.
Yes!
God damn it! I was looking at the stats and I was like, oh, like Howard, he has this, right? He has greater damage potential, greater range, because he could shoot like the bolts of Baltac and everything like that. But he just could not compete in terms of speed, in terms of strength, in terms of evasiveness.
That's right. What was the percentage of wins?
So the percentage of wins was Detective Chimp beat Howard the Duck 56.5% of the time.
Only?
So, yeah. And Howard won 435 matches out of the 1,000, so 43.5%.
So I could have sworn that this match was going to be like ridiculous, like 90-10.
Really?
Yeah.
How dare you? Howard the Duck is awesome. So yeah, that does it for this match. DC wins again, which is super lame because I was really hoping to win this charity matchup. But, Detective Chimp may have won, but Howard the Duck has his own movie.
And his own comic series.
Right.
Actually, Detective Chimp, I don't think has ever had his own comic series.
So there you go. And Howard the Duck is voiced by Seth Green and has been on Guardians of the Galaxy. So he's just the better character in general, if not the better fighter in this instance. But that does it for this episode. And with this episode out of the way, we highly encourage you guys to go ahead and visit the Blast from Our Past podcast, where you can listen to myself and John and Adam Spees review the movie Howard the Duck, as well as review the 90s Spider-Man cartoon and do a fan casting of the Sinister Six. It's a great episode. Highly recommend it. Had a lot of fun with those guys.
And it's not the only episode that we've guest spotted on. I did a guest spot earlier where we reviewed Tim Burton's Batman 89 film. And then we were on even earlier than that to review like the Batman animated series and X-Men animated series cartoons.
Right. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, again, go ahead and check out the Blast from Our Past podcast. You could also visit dynamicduel.com to get links to all of our social media accounts where you can interact with Jonathan and I through that, and also get access to our email if you want to reach out to us that way.
Yeah, and on our website, you'll also get a link to our merchandise store where we sell t-shirts of all of our no prize illustrations and, a few other designs, including our 100th episode commemorative t-shirt featuring the Justice League fighting the Avengers.
Right, that came out last week. It's a really cool piece of apparel, so definitely check that out and pick it up if you get the chance. Would make a great Christmas gift.
Yeah. In our next episode, we will be reviewing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which we've already seen.
Yeah, we saw that last Saturday and highly recommend it. It was such a cool movie. And it wasn't quite as, quick and punchy as I thought it would be. It actually has a lot of emotional depth to it.
A lot of heart.
Yeah, it's substance and style. Definitely check it out. We'll be reviewing that in the next episode again.
Yeah, if you're on the fence, definitely check it out because we will do a spoiler review.
Right, exactly. Please rate and review us if you haven't yet. If this is your first time listening to us, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you could listen to our episodes that release every week.
Yeah, and if you would be so kind, please share us, to your social media or just share us with your friends. Word of mouth goes a long way.
Right, exactly.
Super appreciative.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Up and away.
True believers.